All right, we're going to go ahead and get the City Commission meeting started. If you're able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, well, good wintry evening, and thanks to those of you that were able to make the City Commission today, and want to give a big shout out and welcome to our official City Finance Officer now, Lisa Yardley. So welcome officially to the head table here. Don't worry, Al's still in the audience for those worried if we're going to make it through a meeting. Al is here tonight as well. Al, I noticed you sat in the way back row. Really struggling with this transition to retire, aren't you? Like literally one step, folks, from the door. So. Those that can't hear, he said he's amazed at how rosy everything looks back there. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started with roll call.
Benson.
Here.
Brunick.
Here.
Hunoff.
Here.
Johnson.
Present.
Minor.
Here.
Schramm.
Here.
Villanueva.
Present.
Weber.
Here.
Mayor Mosier.
Here.
City Manager Leon.
Here.
City Attorney Denharder.
He will be coming for those, don't worry. He had to get his vehicle dumped, so he'll be here shortly, so we'll just keep moving along. Next, under routine business, is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 21st, 2023. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on the minutes? Anybody in the public? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Okay. Opposed, nay. And anybody abstaining? All right, minutes passed. Number 3 under routine business is schedule of bills. What is the commission pleasure?
I move that we pay the bills.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any question on the bills? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hunoff.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Mosier.
Aye, motion carries. Number 4 then under routine business is the city manager's report. So I will turn it over to City Manager Leon.
Thank you. Just a couple of things for you, Mayor and Commissioners. To let the media know, you were all invited to a drug court graduation this Wednesday, January 10th at 1:30. That's in the County Government Center. So if there should be some folks that attend, there won't be any city business obviously taking place. It would be just for the purpose of attending that graduation. Also wanted to give you a heads up that coming up in your next agenda packet, you might want to pay special attention to things like the minutes and the bills. Lisa's going to try a little bit different format, so if you have questions about those or how to read those, please let her know. But looking at a few things some other communities do, she'd like to try a few things differently. So let her know if there's anything different there that you don't understand or would like to see differently. Also want to mention another retirement that we had last week. I think we talked about it already, but want to mention that Deputy Fire Chief Larry Nichols retired, and we had a nice retirement party for him on Friday. I believe he had another retirement party in the evening as well, so well attended, and many decades of service there to the Yankton volunteer and to the Yankton paid fire department. So we thank Larry and wonder maybe if he and Al will be somewhere fishing together. That's all I have unless there's questions for me, Mayor.
Are there any questions for the city manager? All right. We'll keep moving along then to number 5 is public appearances. This is the time for the public to appear in front of the commission on something not on the agenda. All right, seeing no movement, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Number 1 is to establish January 22nd, 2024 as the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for one day, January 26, 2024, from Boomers, Inc., Kim Braunschweiger, Braunschweiger, owner, vice president, on doing business as Boomer's Lounge, 100 East 3rd Street at the Meridian Venue at 101 East 3rd Street. Number 2 is to establish January 22nd, 2024 as the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for one day, April 6, 2024, from Yankton Inc., Ben Yankton, president, doing business as Ben's Brewing Company at 222 West 3rd Street for the Sacred Heart Gala, which will take place at the St. Benedict Church Dining Room at 1500 St. Benedict Drive. Number 3 is to establish a public hearing for the sale of alcoholic beverages. To establish January 22nd, 2024 is the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for one day, February 3rd, 2024, from the Yankton Elks Lodge, number 994, Joe Sparks Exalted Ruler at 504 West 27th Street, for an event at the NFAA Archery Center, 800 Archery Lane. And number 4 is to establish January 22nd, 2024 as the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for one day, February 10th, 2024, from Boomers, doing business as Boomers Lounge, 100 East 3rd Street at the Meridian Venue at 101 East 3rd Street. Number 5 is setting the date of January 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. here in the Commission chambers for our next work session topic for the Yankton City Commission. I'm going to pause there. Amy, did you want to share with the Commission your thoughts on what we might discuss that night?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Briefly, I'll want to talk a little bit about our strategic plan and then spend most of the time talking about a proposed initiated measure in November regarding food sales tax or consumables sales tax and what the passage of that initiated measure could have as an impact on cities if in fact it does pass and if in fact it does apply to municipal government. So I want to spend some time talking about that to get people to start thinking prior to our budget season, because that's something that we're going to all need to put our heads together and think through should come to fruition. So that's what I have planned. I've started the memo or white paper, what have you, this afternoon, so I'll be working on that for a while.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just wanted everybody to be aware of what we'll be discussing here at the next meeting. And then number 6 under the consent agenda is due to the regularly scheduled city commission meetings falling on holidays. Discuss moving the city commission meeting scheduled for May 27th, which is Memorial Day, to May 28th, and the meeting scheduled for November 11th, which is Veterans Day, to November 12th. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Move the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Anybody abstaining? Okay. Duly noted. Thank you. With that, then, consent agenda passes. Moving on then to old business. Number 1 is consideration of memorandum 24-02 regarding the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for one day, January 20th, 2024, from Yankton Inc., Ben Yankton, president, doing business as Ben's Brewing Company at 222 West 3rd Street for an event at the NFAA located at 800 Archery Lane. What is your pleasure?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 2 under old business is consideration of memorandum 24-03 regarding the request for a special events retail on-sale liquor license for one day, February 10th, 2024, from Yankton Inc., Ben Yankton, president, doing business as Ben's Brewing Company, again at 222 West 3rd Street for an event at the NFAA located at 800 Archery Lane. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on then in the agenda to new business, and number 1 is consideration of memorandum 24-01, recommending the approval of the lease of unit number 5 of the city-owned T-hangars at the Chan Gurney Municipal Airport to Mr. John Halstead. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Johnson.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hanoff.
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 2 is consideration of memorandum 24-04, recommending that the city commission set April 9th, 2024 as the annual municipal election and direct the finance staff to work with the Yankton School District for a combined election if both entities have elections. It is also recommended that the finance staff be directed to work with YSD administration on an agreement sharing expenses and responsibilities for said election. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Minor.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hanoff.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. And I know we shared this during our media briefing on Friday, but in case there are curious cats out there, every year, should we have an election, there are 3 commissioners up for election. Every year with 9 of us, we rotate, we serve 3 years, so 3 of us are up every year. Up this year, for those that want to know, is Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Benson, and Commissioner Villanueva. And as we shared with the media on Friday, it is their news to share if they're going to run for re-election. So you're getting nothing out of me. You're welcome to talk to the 3 of them and get the plans straight from them. The school board also, as you notice, we just agreed to work jointly with them. They have 2 school board members up for election this year. That would be Dr. Jill Sternquist and Kathy Greenway. Again, their news to share if they plan to rerun for their seats or not. But as of this point, that would be who's up for election if that takes place. So just wanted to mention that. All right, moving on in new business then. Number 3, pretty excited for this. Consideration of memorandum 24-05, recommending that the city commission approve the Music at the Meridian concert series and grant the city manager the ability to sign all the documents and contracts related for said event. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
Got other people as excited as I am that we're coming back for the 8th season. Any commission discussion?
We had our most successful season ever last year, so I'm looking forward to seeing how we improve on it this year.
Yes, lots of exciting things. So I don't know how they top it. We got a special beer this last year with Levy Street Beer. Love that they're sticking with having a local band. Start the night every night. For those that want to know, right now it's slated for every Thursday in July, and then the first 2 Thursdays in August, and then the headliner follows a local artist. So I do love that the last couple of years they've incorporated local artists along with headliners. Any other discussion from the commission?
I do have a question, Mayor.
Yeah.
So if we're voting on this tonight, does that mean summer comes faster?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question. And on a night like tonight, right, we're all dreaming of being down in the park for a band. We're all looking forward to that, especially with just a few inches of white stuff we have outside. Good question. Any other commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hanoff.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, there we go. Now let's bring on summer. I'm with you, Commissioner Villanueva. Let it get here sooner. Because we also have other fun stuff to talk about tied to summer activities. Number 4 you'll see is the Kids Summer Program Series. I'll read what that is here in a second. That was formerly Kids in the Park, so you will notice a name change there just for folks in the public. But this is consideration of memorandum 24-06, recommending that the City Commission approve the Kids Summer Program Series and grant the city manager the ability to sign all documents and contracts for the event. What is the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I mentioned that the name change, that this is just slightly different. If you read the commission packet, you will notice that this is in partnership with the library. And so we'll be partnering with the summer reading program and kind of kicking off that and ending that program with them and doing events tied to that. So that's a change, one of the name changes. The other thing mentioned in the commission packet, just to make everybody aware, is that they're going to be switching up. Formerly, this used to be every Saturday morning. We would do it at Memorial Park outside the swimming pool and do it right before the swimming pool would open. Now in the commission packet, you'll see that they're looking at various dates and times to try to make it more families can come. So those that maybe aren't able to be at events on the weekend, but maybe could do a weeknight or something like that, or later on in the day. They're going to vary that up. So I would just encourage the public that should this be voted on and approved by the commission to just watch. I'm sure we'll be all over social media advertising what those events and dates and times and all the activities tied to that. That'll be coming out at a later date if approved by the commission. So just a few things I wanted to mention there. Any other discussion from the commission or thoughts? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hunoff, Johnson,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 5 under new business is consideration of memorandum 24-08, recommending approval of change order number 4 for the Mead Property Development Project as detailed in memorandum 24-08. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hunoff,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 6 under new business is consideration of memorandum 24-09, recommending approval of change order number 1 for the 3rd Street and Green Street project in the amount of $4,057.26. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hunoff,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 7 under new business is consideration of memorandum 24-10, recommending that the City Commission act on resolution 24-01, and if approved, further authorize the city manager to execute the associated documents. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hunoff,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 8 is first reading of the liquor licensing fee ordinance. This is consideration of memorandum 24-13, introducing ordinance 1077. A first reading clarifying the fee structure for alcohol license renewal and establishing a bidding process for issuance of liquor licenses and setting January 22nd, 2024 as the date for a public hearing and then our official second reading. Before I ask for an introduction, I did ask Ross, much like we did with video lottery, just to give us a quick 30,000 foot kind of walk through, since this is a first reading, of what's being proposed, just so that if anything is too much different than what we had planned. We're aware of that as it's here tonight. And then once he's done going through that, I'll ask for an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. What you see before you is a proposed ordinance that clarifies Section 3-2. The history here is the city of Yankton has not had the ability to issue an off-sale license since sometime in the 1980s, back when the state established its cap. And as a result, the statutes set a range of fees that the city can charge to renew a off-sale liquor license at no less than $300, nor more than $500. The statute does not cap the fee that the city can charge for the issuance of that license. Of course, there's lots of methods the city could utilize to set a fee for the issuance. When the city set its fees, it did not clarify that it just utilized those fees that were set in the statute at the high end. They just adopted in the ordinance that you see before you. See there's a red line version of what we have. Let's see if I'm... If you look at what's actually uploaded, page 1 shows up on page 104 at the end. I don't know how that got out of order, but it's all there. If you look at page 104, you see the original underlaying the redlining. And essentially it just said the fees for these licenses is for an off-sale dealer, $500. It doesn't make that distinction that's just for renewal. Based on the history and the way that we've utilized this in the past, we thought it justified clarification, considering back in August, this commission passed a resolution adopting the issuance of a new off-sale liquor because our population grew, and we indicated that it would be set based on sealed bid. We publicly advertised that we would be doing a sealed bidding process. That process was adopted by this commission. And as a result, it would not be appropriate to accept a fee based on that $500 statutory limit when we've advertised to the public how we're going to do this. So we thought that before we even act on anything, we would clarify, we being staff, we would clarify the ordinance to apply to the renewal fees only, and that the issuance would follow the procedure that Sioux Falls has followed, that we adopted with what this commission has approved back in approximately, was that October, Lisa? So 2 parts to what you see in front of you. The first part, which now for some reason appears at the end, is clarifying section 3-2. And the second part, which you'll see on PDF page 101, is the ordinance adoption of that sealed bidding procedure. Now, if this commission does not want that to be adopted into ordinance, we can disregard and remove section 3-23 because we don't have to set it in ordinance. But I do like how Sioux Falls did that, so it gave the public an expectation of when a license is available. That's the procedure we'll be using, and it will apply to both on-sale and off-sale liquor, so we have some consistency moving forward. I don't think it's going to happen very often, but then this issue won't arise again in the future. So does anybody have any questions?
All right, thanks for walking through that, Ross.
You
With it
bet.
being just a first reading tonight, I wanted to make sure everybody understood what was coming up. With that, then, can I get an introduction?
Introduced.
Thank you. And then number 9 under new business is consideration of memorandum 24-07, recommending the city commission discuss and take action on moving forward with the request for proposal number 4 for West Side Park Pond Improvements Project, and if approved, authorize the city manager to execute the construction change order number 2 associated with the request for proposal number 4 as explained in memorandum 24-07. a lot of wording there to then turn it over to City Manager Leon to walk us through what's in front of us tonight. We will have the discussion. I think it's important that we discuss this before I ask for the pleasure of the commission. So we'll make sure we get questions answered so we can kind of figure out which direction we want to go. So with that, I'll turn it over to City Manager
Okay,
Leon.
thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the commission, and the public. If you have any questions here and you want to interrupt me, please feel free to do so, but I'm going to try to go through the history, a little bit of Westside Park Pond, and then talk a little bit about where we are today and what we're asking of you this evening to consider. So in April of 2022, we did receive bids for the Westside Park Pond Improvement Project. Parkway Construction was awarded that bid, and that was a little over $1 million, $1.1 million, for improvements on the pond, which included grading, updating outlet structure, bank stabilization, retaining walls, new pedestrian bridge, landscaping, et cetera. In September of 2022, there was a change order for $135,500, roughly just under that, which was approved, and that was due to some poor soils at the new retaining wall locations, where some of the subgrade over excavation and stabilization was needed, as well as to reinforce that retaining wall and do some backfill. In October of 2022, the project was nearly complete, and the pond was filled with water. We had a ribbon cutting, and I remember distinctly where I was when Adam called me and told me that he thought that the pond was maybe not holding water, and I thought, that's a really bad joke, Adam, but in fact, he was serious that it was not holding water. So at that point, the water level was dropping rapidly, and we became concerned. So we contacted our engineer, Stockwell engineer, and they worked with us to determine that additional clay liner material was needed around the retaining wall areas. So they worked with our contractor. Additional materials were placed early that summer. As you know, we were in November by that time, so it was late to start work again. And when we filled the pond again in early summer of 2023, we discovered again there was still a leak, and water was dropping rapidly once it was filled. So we worked with our design and construction team, and I'll just remind everybody of all those parties. So, of course, City of Yankton, Stockwell Engineers, Geotech is our geotechnical engineer there, Parkway Construction, to talk about what was going on and why the pond was not holding water. The materials used and placed during the construction met the specifications of the design, and the recommendation from the design and construction team at that time was to install a geomembrane pond liner, or we've just been calling a liner. That's what was in the pond previously, to prevent water leaking from the pond. So that was at that time what was discussed amongst the team, and brought that to you all at the time. Our cost associated with that was, I believe, roughly $178,000. The team members were all participating in the cost of that. So really what our cost was the purchase of that liner and installation of that liner at that time. So we talked about that, and there were some questions about, why didn't this initial design work? And, we all thought those were fair questions to ask. I know for me, I can do the same thing and take the same steps each time I do something and get a little different outcome. But in reality, it should have worked. And our engineer said it should have worked. And Geotech said it should have worked. And Parkway Construction said we built what was designed, so it should work, but it didn't. So the commission directed us, Ross and I, to look into this further with a third party to analyze the work and do some due diligence to see, was there something that one of the team members missed in terms of design, construction, testing, any elements along the way. Something that maybe was out of anybody's control, an environmental condition, for example. So Scott Barnett, who's a PE, was hired to provide that peer review, really a professional opinion of that project. And that is in the packet for the public to digest and to look at. I'm going to go to that now and talk about those 3 questions that was really asked for that individual to answer. So the first question was that initial redesign a proper design that should have worked? And if so, why did it fail? Or rather, what happened? Who failed for that design to fail, that redesign to fail? The next question in that report is, if the initial design would not have worked, is the proposed fix the proper fix? And also, if the redesign is the proper fix, were there any other expenses that the city should not have had to pay that should be further offset from that $177,000 that we were initially asked to pay? And I encourage people to read that in detail and digest that for themselves. Really, what came out of that third-party review is, yes, there were some things that perhaps different engineers or different contractors may have done differently, but by and large, that design, that construction, that testing should have produced the product that we and the community expected, which was a pond that held water, and it did not. That individual concurred with the previous recommendation of the team that the geomembrane pond liner was, in fact, the right treatment and the way that the city should move forward with this. So with that being said, we went back to Stockwell and had told them that and shared this information with them. So this isn't new to anybody. That, yes, in fact, we're ready to move forward with the liner. We had some feedback just before the holidays about the cost of that liner, and we could not get an answer to the contractor, a definite answer, because the timeline of when we got the price, I believe, was a day and a half roughly before the commission meeting. We didn't have time to provide this information to you, or to you we would have, but properly to the public or notice it up. And so we then said we'd like to discuss this and have the commission make this determination on the 8th of January. So this is where we are today. The costs, however, have changed. We went back with Stockwell and said, I'd like to confirm the costs of what our portion are, meaning our city portion is in the cost of this liner. So I'm going back here now to my memo, so I'm making sure that I'm saying this correctly. So today, the city would be responsible, if you're looking in your RFP, for items 4.4 through 4.8, and there's a total there of $249,965. And those are the items associated with installing the new geomembrane liner. The other team members are sharing in responsibility for items 4.1 through 4.3 in that RFP, and those total almost $40,000, $39,525, which are removals necessary to prepare the site, improvements associated with the geomembrane liner, etc. So tonight, if you act to move forward with that RFP, that would initiate Stockwell to work with us on a change order. And so what I would ask is, if that's how the commission moves forward, that you authorize me to sign that change order. We don't want to waste or take any more time on this project. We feel, I feel, and I think other staff members feel, that as time goes on, construction costs can only get higher. And there is a political cost to this project that I think we should acknowledge. We had a gift, for example, from Avera. I sent you an email this afternoon, which was a letter from Mr. Doug Ekren, who's the CEO at Avera, encouraging us to cross the finish line on the Westside Park Pond. And also, I think we made a commitment to the public to improve this pond and get this project complete. And I'm sure they appreciate looking into the details of all projects to make sure that we're doing everything we need to do and crossing all our Ts, dotting all our Is. And now we've done that, so I think that, we certainly want to complete that project for the community too. So when we do get warm weather, we have a pond that's full of water, and we can move forward and have a project that we're happy with. So I would like to answer your questions. David Locke from Stockwell is here. He braved the weather to come to answer any questions you have from Stockwell's perspective. So we'd like to hear what you would like to know.
City Manager, the initial decision, that original decision 2 years ago to go with the clay liner over a geomembrane liner, was that a recommendation of the engineer, or was that a direction from city staff? Who had that original inclination?
I believe the engineer recommended that to us. Adam, did your memory jog that? I think we talked a little bit about a liner as a group.
I've also asked David to step up to the podium, so just FYI that he's up here as well.
I believe we did have discussion on that, and just with budgetary concerns, it seemed like the clay liner was a more economical option at the time, if I remember correctly, and that's the direction we decided to go.
So you say it was a mutual decision between the city and the engineer?
Yeah.
David, do you have the history on that? Is that basically why that was recommended?
Yeah, there's the geomembrane liner, as you can just see from the RFP, is above and beyond a standard clay liner in terms of construction and material and costs. And with every project, there's always a budget that's established that we have to start with and design within. And so we look at all the different options of what could be done, and we look at also from a taxpayer dollar standpoint what that most cost-effective solution is.
David, can you provide us with some insight as to why the cost went up from $177,445 in September to $249,965 today? For the city share, I should clarify.
Yeah. So the original cost, there was some more sharing that was previously discussed in regards to the design, the construction, and geotechnical team. And with the third-party review and taking a look at everything and saying, okay, there wasn't, that should have worked, that there wasn't necessarily anything that was done wrong in terms of the design or the testing. It's just, inconsistencies within the material, or we changed in terms of our direction of how much we would cost share with that. And so in terms of that proposal, that has changed. The original overall total cost for the September cost was, I think, approximately $260,000 total. It's now gone up to $290,000, and that is due to discussions with the contractor. When we were looking at September, it was potentially starting that work in October or November. And then even when we talked before Christmas, the weather was still favorable. The contractor had completed all of his work, and he was like, if I can get the word go now, then we can hold to our prices. But if winter sets in and now this becomes realistically spring 2024 work, there's additional costs in just materials and stuff as things go up, and mobilizing. And so that was the reasoning for those costs going up.
And speaking of costs, I guess my curiosity too tied to that, just from, and I guess I kind of understand now based off your answer, but how do I know now by next spring it's not going to raise again? Because between the end of December And now today, when we're sitting here beginning of January, it went up like $40,000. So how do we know what's in front of us tonight is going to be what's locked in, and it's not going to come back another month from now, and that price goes up again?
Because we have a signed document from the contractor that this is what the price will be, and he understands that he won't be able to start until the spring. And so what we will do then is, if you guys move forward with approval, then we'll put together a construction change order that gets sent to the contractor right away. We'll sign it, send it to you guys, and that officially locks in the price and the work that needs to be done.
Speaking of the work, and I guess up until this weekend, I was saying wah, wah, wah. I would say 3 of them, and I got corrected by my teenager. It's only wah, wah. Did anybody know that? Is it just me? Okay. Didn't know it was a generation thing, but kind of wah, wah. This is our 3rd time trying to do this. So, you know, I'm kind of a little nervous, to be honest with you. Everybody's now telling us, yeah, the liner should work. What guarantee? I mean, like Amy said, you know, we've got a lot of egg in our face politically on this. You know, it's been kind of a sore subject for a lot of folks in town that, you know, the first time we did it, it should have worked. It didn't. Hey, we got the answer. We know now we're going to fix it and it's going to work, and it didn't. So what guarantees? And I get it, you know, anytime I think I said even to the media on Friday, anytime it's kind of like, you can't watch HGTV, right? I don't think I've ever watched a single HGTV show where everything goes as planned. And maybe they just don't even, that's not newsworthy, right? If everything goes as planned. But assuming a liner, and again, how do we know it's going to work and that it's going to hold water, and in June when they put water in it doesn't drain again? And if we have that guarantee, as much as we can get, what is the life of that liner, and when do we have to have these conversations again on how long would a liner like that last?
I guess I don't have that specific information in front of me in terms of the life expectancy of the liner. I don't want to say without knowing that 100%. They're all rated for UV exposure and exposure to the elements. So we don't have any concerns with its functioning. In discussions with our geotechnical engineer, or the city's geotechnical engineer, and also with the various geomembrane suppliers on the types of products, whether it's reinforced or not reinforced, the thickness of that, other applications where it's utilized. The kind of the phrase that's been kind of thrown out is just that this is kind of more of a bulletproof solution. As you can see with the clay, there's the material itself, there's the compaction of it, there's the moisture content of it as it's compacted, the thickness of that liner, the amount of pressure of the water on that material, and all those variables essentially go away with the geomembrane liner. You have obviously new items with that in terms of the seaming that happens. Obviously, they can't come out with a 60,000 square foot blanket and put it down. It's put out in rolls, and so there's seaming that needs to be done to join those seams together. However, all of those seams are tested prior to filling the pond with water, and so it's more of a bulletproof solution, so to speak, than utilizing a clay liner material.
Sorry, I'm keep asking all these questions.
That's all right.
I'm just curious, because obviously that park is used, we've got like a little kayak area. Are these liners or membranes or whatever we want to call them, is it something like I can go up and like poke a hole in it? Or when you talk bulletproof, is it, oh, he even brought a sample.
I even brought a sample.
Look at you. I'm just curious. Oh.
So it's, so that is the exact product that we're putting down. It's reinforced. And it has I can't recall the specific puncture resistance. It's very high. And also, you'll see that one side is textured, and that is for the reason that if somebody were to, go for a nighttime swim or fall in, that it's not smooth like you're trying to, run up a slip and slide, so to speak. So there's texture to it to allow someone to be able to get out of it.
See if Mike can get it. Mike can't get it. It's not good.
So, David, do you have experience working with this material, and how has it performed in other cases, if you have?
I personally do not. We talked with Geotech Engineering. They're very familiar with this type of a product. I can't speak for others in our firm if we've worked on this type of with this type of a project. A lot of times that you see around here is clay liners. A lot of times when he gets to geomembrane liners is more involved with sanitary, but they're used quite often in other areas of the country where there isn't the material available to even think of, where the geomembrane is a more cost-effective solution because of not having to ship in material. And it's been used on, golf courses, ponds for irrigation purposes. It's industry-wide, well-used product.
I would assume eco-friendly. I mean, that seems like plasticky
Yeah,
rubber
it's
kind of
used.
material, but it's
it won't
eco-friendly.
off gas in terms of anything with fish. I mean, it's still used for fishing ponds and such like that. It won't have any detriment to animal life or anything like that.
Well, it's good to hear, because we got a lot of people that like the ducks. We want to make sure that the ducks are safe.
David, having dealt with something completely different, but pool liners in a seems like forever ago. I know that those liners came in a myriad of different mill thickness. So there was different grades. For that, there was virgin vinyl. It was just dependent on what you were willing to pay for. So is this liner, in your opinion, is this going to be, is there a better liner than this, or would you say, in your opinion, this is the best liner for this application?
This is the best liner for this application. There are certainly a variety of different products. I also brought on a different product that this is not reinforced. You'll see kind of the white in here. So this has got nylon, reinforcing with it. If you go with a material such as this that it's not reinforced, you'll notice that it's thicker, and so it's not as easy to work with either. But what we're looking at was tear strength, puncture strength, and even though it's a thicker liner, it has the same puncture resistance and strength as a thinner liner that's reinforced. And in talking with, again, the geotechnical engineer, different membrane suppliers, we worked with 2 different membrane suppliers independently to kind of work through that process. And we both agreed that these were the correct products for the application.
Okay. And one of the things, obviously, they're going to bring it in rolls and then probably hot seam it, I'm guessing? Is that how that works? Or
We have a couple of different ways that they could seam it, but yes, essentially it gets melted together.
Okay. And then we're going to do testing it along the entirety of all seams, or just spots? How does that testing work?
It's all outlined in the RFP here.
Okay.
And again, we worked with the various, they have very rigid testing requirements because they also don't want to come back and have to fix this. And so there's a whole kind of testing section in here where they have to do basically a test weld, not a part of the project. That weld itself has to be tested on site in the site conditions that the other welds are going to be done by the same people and method. That's then tested before they can even proceed with any of the other welds on the geomembrane. They do run, I'd have to look through this again to give you a guarantee that every linear foot of weld is tested. I guess I'd have to look through that again one more time, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. And so that is kind of a segue into one of the questions I have. So the letter we got back from the Mid-States Engineering, one of the things that they brought up or discussed was there were some inconsistencies as mentioned above, based on data presented. But they did say it's my opinion these inconsistencies could not be defined as the cause of the leakage. I was just wondering what, just to go over, what are the inconsistencies in the testing, or do you know what that gentleman, the engineer, was speaking of that did the review?
I guess we weren't a part of the review process. We got the memo at the same time as staff did.
Sure.
I guess I can't speak to what he's calling for as the inconsistencies in here.
Okay.
Adam, do you recall, or was that shared, or Ross, I guess, when we talked to?
He may be referring to the timing as to when the testing took place as an inconsistency. I don't know, Ross, do you have?
I was part of those conversations, but I'm a non-engineer talking with engineers, and it got really technical. But I think if one of the things I remember that he was referring to is had to do with the composition of the soil, that the test showed the individual makeup in each location of the soils was not the same, meaning the mix of what was all there looked different in one sample versus the other, but everything passed. What that's maybe indicating is that it wasn't a homogeneous mixture, but you can't point to it as being at fault because it all passed.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And so you guys are typically on site during testing, David? Is that how that works with like the geotechnical engineer? You guys are there? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I would assume that's the case moving forward with this liner. Will somebody be on site ensuring that the solution is going to be what works?
Yes, correct. So that's, from a cost standpoint, the geotechnical firm has, approximately $23,000 of testing that they have not billed the city in terms of, fixing the liner associated with the wall, which, we admit was, an issue with the detail, that we covered all the costs associated with that improvement and making that upgrade at no expense to the city. And we also have, approximately $35,000 of extra design costs with this geomembrane, and also the CA and staking moving forward with ensuring that it gets properly constructed as well. That will not be charged to the city as well. In addition to the cost savings or the cost sharing of $40,000 that we're proposing with the city. So, we want to have a good faith effort to get this project completed, as Amy said, get it across the finish line. We want to see that too. And that's why we're, investing from a cost sharing standpoint in this, and that's also why we're donating our time and materials to see it through to the end.
And I think we all for sure want to see this through as quickly as possible. This has been a huge eyesore on this side of town, and we want to get this done. But I will say one of the questions I have is, so the price went up considerably in a short amount of time. And so kind of what you said earlier was that one of the main reasons that the price went up is because of this third-party testing. You guys, you felt that the cost sharing was not, you felt you were overpaying before. Is that why the price went up based
Correct.
on this third party?
Correct.
Can you tell me what the city did wrong?
What the city did wrong?
Yes, what the city did wrong.
I guess I don't believe that you guys as a city did anything wrong.
Okay. But yet, we're looking to have to pay an additional $250,000 on this project after we paid to have the pond at 1.1 million to begin with, and then 1.3 million. And now we're looking to add $250,000 on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a $3,500 what's the best term for this? Due diligence, basically. And by us doing that, then it turns into an additional from 177 up to 250. And if we don't agree to that tonight, then it's going to be even more. It doesn't feel right to me. I'm trying to do things for the community, in support of the community, have the community's best interests in mind. And right now, it just doesn't feel like that this is the best way forward for the community. I understand, and I understand that it's partially on the contractor who's saying that, from they're looking at that and they're saying we're not going to do additional work and pay for this, and do it pro bono. But I don't see where we as the city, I can't see how I can approve work that we've already paid for that didn't work to then be in the situation where we're paying for additional work that was over the top of the contract. The city didn't cut any corners on this job at all. I mean, professionals were hired the whole way through, and there's a reason why we hire professionals. Is so that jobs go smoothly, and so that if jobs don't go smoothly, there's liability associated with it. And that's where I'm at right now with the situation. And I just want to make it clear that the city did not do anything wrong on this, is my understanding. I want that clarified.
Correct.
I know not all projects always are successful. Sometimes they're not. But when a project is not successful due to unforeseen circumstances, it seems to me that's where insurance coverage should kick in. At this point, looks to me, based on this proposal, that the design and construction team expect the city to eat the majority of the cost of this implementation of a new design. And I remember our city attorney saying just a couple of months ago that the city should only be responsible for paying for one successful design. And any costs beyond that should not be borne by the taxpayers. And that's important. I think all of us up here understand that one of our primary duties is to be careful stewards of that taxpayer money. And I know you're not in ownership where you make that decision, but it seems to me like the engineer should be, and the construction team, should be contributing more to the cost of this. I'm not saying, well, you say the city has done nothing wrong, but I was going to suggest that if we are going to move forward, maybe we could at least share equally in the cost of this new design, the three entities.
Well, we'll say I am an owner in Stockwell, so I do understand what you're saying. I think with the third party review is that there is not a fault in terms of a problem or an error that we made from a professional standpoint. And this liner is an upgrade and will result in a better product to the city. And as projects change, whether that's through increase of units with pricing or if it's added value to the project, that you as the owner pay for those increases. And we're certainly willing to help from a cost sharing standpoint on this. And that's why we're, paying for the removals portion of it. Work that would be, kind of a duplicate, so to speak. And the improvements are being asked to be covered by the city, which is standard with projects that have either an increased cost from a unit value standpoint, if there's more sidewalk that gets paved or more concrete roadway or more water main that gets installed on those unit price contracts, just like on the same thing of the unit price contracts, sometimes if there's a cost savings that happens, you guys incur those savings. And so with the increased work that's requested and needed and is a kind of an added value to the project, that's something that you as the owner would need to pay for.
What are the improvements?
The geomembrane liner is an upgrade as opposed to the clay liner. Just like if you buy a Chevy and then you want to get a Cadillac, there's a cost increase even though you're still getting a car.
But before we were talking about 177, and now we're talking about 250. So the change came from our due diligence of making sure that we were doing what we wanted to make sure. Third party is the only way that you can do that. So we hired a third party, and that was done in as compressed of a fashion as we could do. It did not come back with a, this is the reason, right? It didn't come back with that. It didn't come back with like, it's the contractor's fault, it's the engineer's fault, it's the testing's fault. It didn't come back with that smoking gun, but
Right.
that doesn't negate the fact that we still don't have a pond that holds water. So between the three, it's still a project that didn't work.
Right.
And it's hard from my end, being someone who's representing, the community, our community, to say, all right, well, geez, yeah, you're right. It isn't anybody's fault. So we'll just pay for it. The only entity of these four, the contractor, the engineer, the testing, and the city, the only one that I can guarantee didn't have any part of this was the city. But the city is the one that's being asked to pay the lion's share of this. I like Brian's idea about some type of a cost sharing between the four entities. I'm trying to. I want the project to be successful. I'm not trying to nail you to the wall here. I know you guys, as Stockwell, are trying to work with this, and you're in a situation where you have a couple of other. You have Geotech and you have the contractor, and they're not here tonight, right?
Correct.
To speak for themselves,
Correct.
and you can't speak for them. And I know that's part of this additional cost.
That's correct.
I'm just having a hard time justifying to myself why we are liable for these additional costs.
Because it's your project and it's your property, and it's, those improvements are being constructed on city property. In terms of the change from the previous amount to now, as you said, there's other parties involved. It's not just Stockwell. And, I can tell you that, they were not in favor of anything more than what we're proposing here this evening. So I would suspect that if we do not move forward with any of these costs, that it'll have to, the path moving forward, if it's not approved this evening or if it's not approved to move forward, then any additional costs would be done, or anything that has to be done moving forward, whether you guys hire an independent contractor to come in and do it, that'll be more costs associated with that. That's not with the project, because you won't have somebody there that's paying for the $40,000 that we're willing to pay for. And the contractor, I know, doesn't want to pay any more, and Geotech has, a significant amount of money, more than double their original fee that they've incurred, that they've agreed to not charge the city for, along with testing as we see this thing through. I mean, you guys are getting, just in terms of, our work into this and paying for work that the contractor is going to be doing, $100,000 in value almost, between testing, design, CA, construction items that you won't get if you decide to not move forward or move forward with another contractor or try and renegotiate again in the spring. I can tell you that, the costs that, other than just our discussions, with our other team members of what we would cost share, the cost going up is the contractor charging for his work. And I mean, like you guys have asked, we don't want that price to go up any more than what it has for you guys as well. And so we want to see this thing this thing through, but if it goes back to, well, we have to pay for half, it's the cost is going to go up, and it'll become much more expensive for everybody involved.
So I do have to say, David, it does give me pause that just because we had a third party verify, try to do our own due diligence and see exactly what went wrong, it does disappoint me that because we did that due diligence, that prior to that, I guess you felt a little more liability than you do now. And now you feel like, well, we're going to go from 177 to 250, and if you don't take it now, then it's just going to go up again.
I guess that's not the way I'm trying to say it, but
That's
I
how it
mean,
feels.
that's in terms of Stockwell's cost of what we're paying for that, I mean, we're a part of, there's two other entities that are help making that decision. And if those other two entities can't be on board with what we're proposing with you guys, and you guys have contracts with each of those entities as well. We don't have contracts with them, but we're negotiating with them to try and help bring this thing across the finish line. I can tell you that that cost increase, was kind of between the three of us something that was discussed, and kind of our recommendation was at least coming to the table with this. If we had not recommended that as in Stockwell, then that it would be much less if you were negotiating with somebody else.
Mike, I'd agree with you. I think it does feel like a 41% increase punishment in a way. But Ross, a question for you. When we had the initial contracts with the contractor and the design, what's the end deliverable? Is it a pond that holds water, or is it a pond to the design spec? Because those are two different things in this case.
It is, because, and you make an astute observation, because a pond to the design spec is what we have now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I gave the analogy to one of you when we had a phone call earlier today. You need to look at it through the lens of getting what you expected to pay for a given project. So if I had hired somebody to design and build me a deck made of cardboard, and the elements proved out that my cardboard deck is not going to function as an appropriate deck, I don't now get to hire somebody else and build me a deck built of wood that is appropriate to the elements and expect that the guy who is going to build me a cardboard deck has to pay me for a wooden deck. Does that make sense? But when you have a situation where you have three separate contracts with three separate entities, all with different dispute resolution structures, and since it wasn't just one contract, design, build, you're responsible for the whole thing, it is a very nonlinear dispute resolution that you have to go through. But at the end of the day, if you were going to go the route to try to remedy through the courts, what Ben has pointed out is sort of the truth. The only party that's not at fault is the city. But getting everybody into one venue to resolve it is a substantial challenge. And then you have Polish firing squad, everybody's pointing at each other, and nobody stands up and says it's me, and ultimately the city waits and waits and waits and waits and waits for everybody to fight it out once you get everybody in one court, until ultimately the court resolves it, potentially in a period of years with the increased cost of that process. And then once liability is ascertained, you have to sort out what is that liability, because you have to differentiate what would the city have expected to pay to have the deck built of wood versus the deck built of cardboard, and what was the unnecessary expenses that would not have to have been incurred had it been designed of wood. And I'm not suggesting the initial design was a cardboard deck. We have an opinion that indicates this design in theory, should have worked, and it didn't. And the way it was constructed, it passed the test. So we can't point to specifically what went wrong, but we can point to it and say, that's a mud hole, it doesn't hold water. So the value added components, a court is not likely going to say, no, city, you don't have to pay for that. The damages for the city is, what did you have to pay for twice? What was unnecessary? What was extra expenses? And that's a trickier play, and that will change based on the evolution and time involved. You know what I mean? So those extra expenses is really what the dispute is over, and how do you sort through that piece of it? You guys have a tough decision to make, but I hope that kind of shares some perspective on the total project for you, and really the limitations of what the court can do in these circumstances.
Dave, throughout this conversation, we've been talking about some of the in-kind contributions that you and the other contractors have made. So I just want to make sure that we have a common understanding of that and the public understands that as well. So according to what I've seen, Geotech performed some additional work, and that was in the amount of $22,300.
It was $23,238
Okay.
is the number that we were provided from Geotech.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Stockwell, you performed the redesign of the membrane liner, and that was estimated around $35,000.
And that includes the work that has not yet been done yet, which is the construction administration, the staking that will be involved with seeing the observing the rubber membrane installed. And we also have approximately $90,000 that we paid to the contractor independently for the bringing in the additional clay liner fill material around the island and the observation.
Okay.
And we acknowledge that was, something that's on us, and that's why we paid for it and didn't bring it before you guys at all.
Okay. And then there's the $39,525 that is that shared between the three entities?
That's correct.
And that's just for, can you clarify that for me? I don't have
Basically,
my notes.
that's to use Ross, if I use Ross's analogy, if he's okay with that, that would be to essentially, remove the components of the cardboard deck or to move them out of the way for you to construct the wood deck. And so basically we're paying for the items to get it to a clean slate, so to speak, for the geomembrane to be installed.
Okay. And then I've seen reference to LT companies. Is that Parkway Construction?
Correct.
$20,000 credited them. Is that still accurate, or is that
A credit to them?
Yeah, so it says that they had contributed $20,000. And so the total we were given, this is back in September, in the work that had been done that wasn't being charged to us was $116,825. So I was wondering if that $20,000 was like a credit, if we approved it early on, and now since we passed the first of the year, that's gone away. I'm a little confused about that one.
I guess I'm not aware of that dollar value.
Okay. So we're right. If we discount that, then we're around $96,000 in in-kind contributions, and then you said there was the $90,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Amy, on this, obviously a concern tonight is the additional cost for doing this. How are we going to cover that? We've already approved the budget. Where do you see this coming from? What doesn't happen because we'll have to cover this?
So we do have to carry over funds regardless from Westside Park Pond in the capital into 2024. We have budgeted additional fund in Westside Park Pond or Westside Park capital. Our thought was that we would perhaps be able to do some additional items, maybe some irrigation in the park at different places, maybe some other things. We do have a pending grant with Land Water Conservation and some in-kind contributions and some plans to assist with that conservation grant and the in-kind contributions to do the pickleball conversion. I think that we would be budgeted, if you were to approve the $249,000 for this RFP, we would still have enough money in the budget to procure or match our grant and do the pickleball improvements. I can get exactly what that number is right now that we'd carry over, but we did anticipate to have some additional costs. We knew this project wasn't going to be over this spring when we were in budget season, so we did plan a bit, but we also hope to do a little bit more in the park than we're going to be able to do, but of course we want to get things right here. So if you just give me a second, I'll look up that capital number.
While you do that, David, what might give me a little bit less heartburn on this whole deal is the timeline for this. If we're not going to have to go through a whole nother summer of looking at dirt or construction in the park, what is a timeline for completion on this if approved tonight? What is the goal? What are you hearing from the partners that are working with you on this project of a completion?
So what we've been told is 90 days. That has to do with kind of the full scope listed in the RFP. I think some of that was also given with the idea of, we don't, at that time, we don't know if there's some work that potentially could have occurred, before we got a foot of snow. And so we can get that clarified from the contractor. But what the number of calendar days that he sent was 90 days. But we can further clarify that with him if you would like.
So I guess I have a question for Ross again. Sorry to put you on the spot. How, in general terms, how does this change order process compare to other projects we do where we have change orders? It's not uncommon to have change orders where there's cost overages or cost savings, but cost overages in this case. I think part of all of this is the consternation over how much public perception on this project has cost us in terms of time and sympathy and empathy and just generally feeling bad about what's going on. So how is this different or how is this similar? I mean, if it's similar process then to others that we've approved without all of this conversation, I'm less concerned about it, but it feels like it's worse because of the public perception. But is it actually worse than other projects?
That might be a better question for Adam, honestly. I mean, I'll let you field it, and I might add if that's okay.
No, this typically when there's a change of scope or direction on a project, a request for proposal such as was distributed is sent out to the contractors involved with that, and then that's reviewed. And if it's appropriate, and then it's a change order is created to move forward with, to have the contractor move forward with that work.
I mean, I know we've approved change orders where we had to order more pipe or had to do, something.
Yep.
And it didn't cause us heartburn.
Correct.
And that was, the design was engineered without the change order. We had to make the change order. So I guess I'm trying to be empathetic to the situation that's going on and understand that this happens, but it feels like it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, so my 2 cents, and Adam may disagree, Amy might disagree, but my perception is the new stuff that's truly new, and arguably in this case, due to the fact that there was unknown conditions associated with the soils, which is a statutory condition to do a change order, is largely no different. It is new deliverable based on previously unknown conditions. It's just the the sorting through that, what was unnecessary extra that makes this different, and the political ramifications that it's a park, very visible, everybody drives by it, and everybody has an opinion about it.
I think it's a good point, Mason, that you bring up. When we met with the media on Friday, one of the change orders you approved tonight, now peanuts compared to what we're talking about, had to do with, I think, if I wrote it down, was maybe like a 1-inch copper service line or something like that. That was different, or we needed more of it than what had been planned or something like that. So I agree. I think there's some of it. I know Amy has said in the realm of things, I think you also have to keep in mind, we do millions and millions and millions of dollars in projects in our community. I think this one's just more visible. The community does not see the 1-inch copper service line and the amount more that we had to get, or the Mead property development change order, the one before that, to my understanding, was mostly tied to concrete work and needing more concrete or widening a sidewalk than making it wider than we had planned on. But a lot of that, sometimes fortunately in our change orders, is below ground, I might call it that, or behind the scenes. I think what's hard on this one cost-wise is a little bit difficult pill to swallow. But I think the other thing is because it's so visual, right smack dab in the middle of town, I think just really keeps bringing it to the mind, and, covered regularly. And every time we had an oops, nobody in the media saw that we needed more 1-inch copper line, and had to get that in there before we covered it up. But every time you drive by West Side Park, there's a very big visual on the issues that we're having with a certain construction project. So I know Amy said that in the realm of thing, and Adam, you probably know more than I do, even on the multi-millions and millions of dollars of projects we do every year. To expect all of that, I guess, to go flawlessly would be unrealistic, but hard to have one that maybe that's so visual. So I think that's a good point, Commissioner Schramm. Amy, did you find what you were?
Yes, ma'am, I have a number. So in 2023, which will carry over in our capital improvement budget, we had $620,000 budgeted for West Side Park Pond now, and West Side Park improvements. Everybody needs to be aware that, we still have outstanding bills from the contract and from which we have not paid, because when we're not complete with the project yet, we hold back, so we have some bills yet to pay. We also have some improvements yet to perform. What we would do if this were approved this evening would not be as aggressive on planning some of those other things that we talked about during budget session, for example, like irrigation, and maybe some of the other things that we had hoped to do. We'd still plan to do the tennis court conversion is actually in a different line item, so there's actually dollars in that line item as well. But we certainly want to make that a priority, since we do have a grant forthcoming for that project, as well as another gift. So we want to make that one a reality, but there should be ample dollars, should you approve tonight, to complete those things, and then perhaps still do something in addition at that park, if the community should so choose.
I just want to take a moment to build on what you had said, Mayor Mosier. I've had one person approach me and say that they won't even drive past the park anymore because it hurts them so much to see the empty pond. And I know I'm not the only commissioner that's heard that. And what that speaks to, and it's what I've talked about with this project before, this is emotional infrastructure. People have very strong feelings about this pond and this park. There's a lot of memories tied up in it. And so that's why it's so important to the community. That's why we hear about it all the time. I know city staff is asked about this on a weekly basis. So I guess you have been on the receiving end of that tonight, David. And I know, we've worked on many projects over the years, and I know you take great pride in your work, and you want this to be right too. So I just hope you understand where we're coming from, and hold that in your heart and mind as you're going forward, that this is a real focal point for the community because of the emotions tied up in that park in that pond. So we need to get it right. And I know you want to get it right, but that's what we're feeling here tonight.
I would say I echo that as well. I mean, being local and they're local components of the contractors team too. I mean, we've all heard about it. And we want to see it completed and holding water and with families and kids. And I mean, we were there, I was there when, we filled again this past summer, and there was a gentleman there with his family that, like, as soon as we swept the sidewalk up, he was pulling up with his kayak, and he was like, I want to be the first one in the pond, so I was just waiting for you guys to finish. And so, we want that. I mean, that's the whole part of Parks and Rec, is being able to have those experiences for your community, and being, civil engineers and landscape architects, those are the types of environments that we operate in because we're passionate about that. And I want to see water in that pond just as much as all of you guys. So I just say we echo that sentiment, being here as well.
Just wanted to say, first off, David, we've worked together on other projects, the pool, the Aquatic Center, Heath Aquatic Center. That was a fantastic thing that was done for our community. So, however uncomfortable this conversation, I want to let you know, I think you do a great job. Stockwell does a great job. We appreciate what you do. You add a lot to this community. But with that being said, we also have, which, however uncomfortable, we have a responsibility to our citizens, the taxpayers. We're not spending the city's money per se, we're potentially spending their money in this change order. And so I just have to, Ross's analogy about building a cardboard deck and then trying to build it out of wood. The only issue I have a little bit with that analogy is that if I had an engineer telling me that the cardboard deck is going to work and they put a stamp on it, then I would expect that the cardboard deck is going to work. And one of my concerns too is that if we would have, I understand you're saying too with a Chevy and a better brand of vehicle, right? Whatever that is. But the thing is I'm concerned about if we do approve this change order, are we really going to get as good of a project as we would have if we would have started with the geotech liner? Because my concern is that I know enough about construction to be dangerous. I know that they're not going to be, when they come in and they start using backhoes to take all the rock out and all this stuff out, it's going to be full of mud. It's going to be full of debris. I mean, I doubt they're going to take the time to wash it off. And so if there's going to be, if new material has to be hauled in, or most of those plants, and I'm assuming are probably dead,
Right.
It says to try and essentially reuse what we have. And so are we just going to have half of what we had then? Are you going to bring in new stuff? I'm just worried that we're not going to get, if we would have started with the liner from the very beginning, one, we wouldn't be here at this point, but two, I think we would have had potentially a better end product than trying to reuse all the stuff that's there.
Yeah, so that's part of, why there's the increase of cost, because you would have ended up with a better product. And in terms of saying that, they're not going to sweep the sidewalk or they're not going to repair the site afterwards, this price is to fully complete, repair the project, reseed it, sweep the sidewalks, as if when we did the ribbon cutting. Everything is cleaned up, and the material that's being reused is material that'll still be cleaned. If it's the riprap around the edges, it's not going to have chunks of dirt in it and all that kind of stuff. It'll be washed and cleaned out. The plants, those will be, if some of them are salvageable, we'll salvage them. If not, then they will bring in new plants. And those, plants are resilient. Even if they're being salvaged, I think you won't notice a difference in a couple of years. So the intent is this price is to complete the project as it should be, as a completed project. And the material that's being reutilized, like the clay liner, so we have to put material on top of the liner to separate that from the riprap. And so we're reusing material on site to do that. It doesn't have to be that material. It could be a different type of material, but we already have it on site, and it's the most cost-effective way to do it. And so that's what we're reusing. We're reusing the rock because it's already there. And so I would say you're not going to receive an inferior product if we would have started with the geomembrane. And you would have paid for that up cost of the geomembrane at the time if we would have gone that route to begin with, of which then, you know, I don't, from again, kind of going back to budget, kind of how that works. So.
Well, and that's why I've had citizens call me and talk to me about they feel that we shouldn't be paying anything for this, and that's where I absolutely see your point that if we would have started with the liner, then we would be paying for that liner. The liner is not
Right.
free.
Right.
But it just, again, it does give me pause, and I have to be honest, it gives me pause that we from the end of December to now that because of that due diligence that we did, that it almost does feel a little bit like a punishment, however you want to say that. But I just feel like I maybe could have been good with the liner cost, but now I'm having a hard time with it right now.
I understand that, but we aren't the only entity involved in that decision. So.
With that being said, so when you talked about that, where did the price go up? Was it an agreement for all three to raise the price? Was there one particular that wasn't? How did we arrive at this new number? Who wasn't willing to keep the number where it was originally? Do you know?
The contractors' costs have gone up from their standpoint, just in terms of, you know, not being able to do some of the work before kind of winter set in. And, you know, I guess I don't want to speculate, you know, how they would be approached if they were, you know, talking with you guys about it. But, you know, there was certainly sentiment that, you know, that there was potentially not going to be any cost sharing involved in this, you know, due to the fact that independent review came back, independent party, and just said that, you know, the design was right, the material was right, it should be working. And so I think, you know, that sentiment changed there, and, you know, I think we're coming to the table with the best offer that we can do in terms of discussions with the other two entities.
Okay.
And I don't want to speak for them.
Oh, no.
One way or the other.
Yeah, I don't expect you to do that. But just so I'm clear, so you're saying if we do not approve this tonight, then everything's off the table, and obviously the costs are going to go up. You're going to be adding nothing back to the project. Is that correct?
I guess I didn't say that. I'm just saying that if it's not approved, then there's then continued discussion that happens and what is going to be paid for and what's not going to get paid for.
Okay.
And I don't know what the outcome is of that discussion.
Sure.
I know from our standpoint, you know, from Stockwell's standpoint, as you said, you know, a couple of you guys have said, you know, we do a lot of projects with you guys. Mm-hmm. We're here in the community, and we care about our relationship with you guys and with the community members. Yep. And so, you know, that's why you're seeing kind of the cost sharing that you're seeing as a part of this. If that goes to, you know what, we're not going to do it, and, you know, then, you know, I don't want to say all bets are off, but I don't know what the other entities' sentiments are going to be.
Okay.
And so that cost could change. It could stay the same.
Sure.
I can't speculate that one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from the commission? Clarification? Thoughts?
The one thing that I've still got is precedent. I just don't think that this sets a good precedent. We hired an engineer to do the job, contractor, geotech. We ended up with an unsuccessful project, and now we're bearing the cost of it. And again, we did not do anything wrong And I was on board with the 177 that we had talked about before. But I felt that we needed to do that due diligence. We did do that due diligence, and then we were like, all right, no, we've done that. And then the cost went up, and it just, I can't get behind it because of that. I can't get behind it, that cost went up, and then even before we were able to make a decision, the cost went up again. And I understand that those things are out of your hands, right? I'm not, again, I'm not trying to nail you to the wall. I'm just trying to be a good steward for the community, and that's, and I feel like it's important that I state, my own personal reasoning. We're all one vote, right? I mean, this is, and I feel it's important for me to state why I feel the way that I feel, so that the community can know why you feel, and then they can make a decision as far as who they think should, we're representing the community. And so I just want to be on the record for my reasoning. Thank you.
Anything else? If not, I'm going to ask, what's the pleasure?
I'll move that we approve the memorandum. I'm afraid if we keep prolonging this, we'll just end up spending it in court fees or wherever, and we won't have a pond that's completed, so.
I'll second that.
Now that we actually have a formal motion and a second, is there a commission discussion?
I'm as sympathetic as anyone to wanting to get that pond up and running and holding water, but I don't think we should use that to pursue a poor business decision, a poor precedent. And so with the design and construction team proposing to pay what I think is a fairly small percentage of this $290,000 proposal, I can't support it.
Anybody else on the commission? Anybody in the public want to address the commission as tied to this motion? Seeing no movement. Lisa, roll call.
Hanoff,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
No.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
No.
Mayor Mosher.
I'm going to vote aye as well. I do think this is a difficult pill to swallow, but I think not getting this park moved forward and then getting water back in the pond to a project that we anticipated and wanted has a bigger downfall. So I believe that passes then 6-3. All right. We do not have anything under other businesses presented to me before the meeting. So with that, then I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting of January 8th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Anybody abstaining? We are adjourned. Have a safe trip home, everybody.